I remember the exact moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday morning. Nothing special about it. I was sitting at my kitchen counter, coffee cooling beside me, half awake and scrolling through my investment app the way I did most mornings. It had become a habit, not obsessive, just routine. Tap, Face ID, numbers. And then I saw it. $250,347.82. I didn't gasp. I didn't jump up. I didn't call anyone. I just stared. Not because I was suddenly rich. I wasn't. But because something felt different. I couldn't explain it yet, but I could feel it. A quiet shift. Like crossing an invisible border you didn't even know you were approaching. That number wasn't just money. It was momentum. 5 years earlier, I was 28 years old, making $65,000 a year, and feeling oddly proud of the $5,000 sitting in my very first brokerage account. Not a retirement plan automatically deducted from my paycheck, not something my employer handled. Mine. I had spreadsheets, tabs, projections. If I invested $500 a month and earned 10% a year, I told myself, I'd be a millionaire by 50. It felt clean, predictable, mathematical. The future seemed guaranteed. Then real life happened. Month after month I checked the account. $5,500, $6,200, $5,800, because the market dipped. $6,900. A year passed. I had around $12,000. 2 years passed. About $28,000. It was painfully slow. No one talks about how boring the beginning is, how anticlimactic. You're doing all the right things, skipping happy hours, bringing lunch from home, saying no to weekend trips, and the reward feels microscopic. Meanwhile, friends were upgrading cars, posting vacation photos from places I couldn't pronounce, buying houses. I was celebrating a $3,000 gain like it meant something. There were nights I questioned the whole thing. What was the point? At this pace, it felt like I was building a sandcastle one grain at a time, but I didn't stop. Not because I was disciplined. Honestly, because everything was automated. The money left my account before I could talk myself out of it. That accidental consistency saved me. By year 3, I hit $52,000. Year 4, $95,000. And that's when something strange started happening. The growth began to feel alive. When I had $5,000 invested, a 10% year meant $500. Nice, but forgettable. At $95,000, a 10% year meant $9,500. That was more than I was saving in several months. My money was working harder than I was. That realization hit differently than any finance book explanation ever had. Compound interest wasn't a chart in a textbook anymore. It was visible, tangible, emotional. Some days the market would swing $800. Other days it would drop $300. I'd open the app and feel something I'd never associated with investing before. Excitement. When I crossed $180,000, it felt surreal. But what stunned me most was the speed. The jump from $180,000 to $200,000 took 4 months. 4 months. It had taken me 2 full years to go from zero to $20,000. The same amount of money, compressed into a fraction of the time. That's when I began to understand. Growth isn't linear. It's silent. Until it isn't. And then came that Tuesday. $25,000. At first, nothing in my external life changed. I still went to work, still packed lunch some days, still debated streaming subscriptions. But internally, everything shifted. At work, I stopped shrinking. When a meeting turned political, I didn't feel the same anxiety. When my manager pushed unreasonable deadlines, I calmly pushed back. It wasn't a rebellion. It was security. For the first time in my adult life, I had options. If I lost my job tomorrow, I wouldn't panic. I could breathe. With $250,000 invested, even withdrawing 4% annually meant $10,000 a year without touching the principal. That wasn't enough to live on, but combined with freelance work or a temporary job, it meant time. Time to think. Time to choose. And choice changes everything. I started seeing my job differently. I wasn't trapped there. I was choosing to be there. That subtle mental shift rewired my confidence. But the biggest surprise wasn't confidence. It was calm. The background anxiety about money, the constant hum most adults carry, quieted down. Not completely, but enough that I could hear my own thoughts more clearly. I stopped obsessing over small expenses, not because they didn't matter, but because my mental energy mattered more. I said yes to a destination wedding I would have declined years earlier, booked a weekend trip with friends without running 5 spreadsheets first, invested in a course I'd been postponing. I realized something uncomfortable. I had gotten so good at building wealth that I'd forgotten to build a life worth funding. $250,000 didn't make me wealthy. It made the future feel inevitable. At a conservative 7% return, even if I never added another dollar, that money would likely grow to over $1 million in 20 years. $1 million. Not because of hustle, not because of brilliance, because of time. And if I kept contributing, even modestly, that timeline shortened dramatically. For the first time, becoming a millionaire didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt like math. It wasn't if, it was when. That certainty changed how I walked through the world. I was more generous, less reactive, less desperate to prove myself. Money hadn't just grown. I had. The strange thing about financial milestones is that the number itself isn't the reward. It's the identity shift. At $5,000, I was trying to build wealth. At $50,000, I was hoping it would work. At $250,000, I knew it would. That knowledge is powerful. It makes you patient during downturns. I had already lived through a 30% market drop once. I'd watched my account fall from $140,000 to under $100,000 in weeks. It made me physically sick. But I didn't sell. I kept contributing. And when the market recovered, as it always has, those ugly months became some of my best returns. Consistency beat intelligence. Automation beats emotion. Time beat everything. 2 years after that Tuesday morning, my portfolio sits around $380,000. The numbers grow faster now. Each additional $100,000 arrives quicker than the last. But here's the truth. The real milestone wasn't $300,000. It wasn't $350,000. It was $250,000. Because that's when I stopped feeling like someone chasing wealth and started feeling like someone who possessed it. Not extravagantly, not arrogantly, just steadily. The first $100,000 took forever. The second came faster. By $250,000, momentum was undeniable. If you're at $5,000 right now, or $15,000, or $80,000, I promise you this. The beginning is the hardest part. It feels slow because it is slow. But one day, you'll open your app, coffee in hand, expecting nothing special, and you'll see a number that changes how you see yourself. And when that happens, you'll realize something profound. You weren't just building money. You were building freedom.